Hello and welcome. Maybe we should all agree to disagree on a new voters register, but it is so no. The MPP came out today and released a statement and obviously said that they do not agree with the EC's position and the reasons with which the EC is saying that, look, let us go with the old one and not a new one. Did we expect any different? No. But should we have expected any different? I think that's the question. Should we have expected any different? Should we just go with this one and monitor the polling stations and make sure everything's hunky-dory? Or should we fight? I mean, how many more months do we have till election? Can we seriously have that clean register that we are looking for? Indeed, are we backing up the right tree? And that's what I want to find out today. The premises I want to find out today is, are we backing up the right tree? Shouldn't a country be more focused on a credible and legitimate ID system rather than a legitimate voter system? Because now, whether you want to vote or not, you need an ID so that if you get a Western Union, you can, whiz over to the bank and flip over your voter's ID card to get a Western Union. But again and again, and even though I sound like a broken record, I am saying again, the 21st century is almost 16 years old. In 4 years' time, we're going into 2020. Germany is going to bring a driverless car. Japan is going to do an unmanned mission to space. America is coming up with super duper. Nations are coming up with innovations. And you and I today, this evening, are going to have a 1-hour conversation that Ghana cannot identify an individual that's 18 years old. Every day I get a message on my phone, blip, Asumesi's birthday is today, blap, Asumesi's wedding is 5 years old. Every day on my phone I get a message telling me about somebody's anniversary. Ghana, today, we have no means of telling that Akosia is 18 and Kojo is 12. That we are not ashamed of, but we are desperate that we need to find a clean voters register so that once again the politicians can match us all up to go and vote. That's our conversation today. My name is Nanan Sakwa. This is PM Express. Don't move. When I come out, introduce my guest. Well, thank you very much for staying. And with me in the studio is David Asante, convener of Let My Vote Count. So this is a man who believes if his vote is going to count, he needs a credible voter for it to count. He doesn't need any minors, dead people, Togolese, Ivorians, or Burkinabes anywhere near that register. Indeed, if we are going to elect people and hand over the sovereignty of this country to them, give them the country's purse, it must be people who the purse belong to. Indeed, I don't want my next door neighbors taking decision as to how I spend my money. It has to be people from within my house. And for that matter, we need something really, really credible where only Ghanaians within a certain age group fall to take that decision. Is that possible or not? David, you are welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Thanks for having me, Nana.
Well, welcome, Ejo Ambantems. You've never been on the show. But let's just take a couple of inserts, a couple of interviews of what happened today to set the premises for those of you who may have missed the interview. So don't move at all. Let's watch this and then we come back to studio and start talking.
To the commission, the register is bloated for two main reasons. That's from the Electoral Commission. One, there are too many dead people on the list. And two, the voter ID serves as a national ID card for everybody in Ghana, including foreigners, minors, and presumably fraudsters who need multiple identities to commit fraud. It is useful at this juncture to make this point. The Electoral Commission has not been able to challenge any of the statistics we provided to show that the register is bloated. If you recall, when we did our presentation at Alisa, we emphasized three key areas that made the register bloated and flawed. We gave statistical, legal and constitutional, and And the third one was statistical, legal and constitutional, and then IT, the information technology systems that was used to produce the register. So we are saying that as far as the statistical, the first thing we addressed in ALISA is concerned, the EC has not been able to show anything against that. They have used all manner of phrases and excuses to dance around it. When all is said and done, the Electoral Commission is now saying it agrees with us that yes, Ghana has a bloated register. That is the bottom line. That is the bottom line, that Ghana has a bloated register. However, instead of fixing it, what we are getting from the Commission are excuses upon excuses. For example, the EC wants us to merely accept its assertion that it is not as good as its counterparts in other African countries at cleaning up a bloated register. Let me quote exactly what the Electoral Commission at page 9 of its response to the MPP said, and I quote, "The reasons for Ghana's relatively high score are: 1, processes of challenging registration of prospective voters in other jurisdictions are more effective. 2, the voter ID card is de facto national ID card in Ghana, hence the higher numbers due to enhanced demand for it as a means of identification. 3, the existence of compulsory national ID card systems in most comparative countries. 4, no automatic linkages of voter registration to birth and death registry in Ghana, hence a high number of deceased persons still on the register." Unquote. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the very words of the Electoral Commission, not ours. In other words, the Commission is saying to Ghanaians that yes, our register is among the worst in Africa. Yes, it is bloated. But so long as we don't have a proper national ID in Ghana, so long as we don't have proper records of the dead, we cannot prevent illegal names from getting onto the electoral roll. It is interesting to know that MPP used Nigeria, Senegal, Kenya, and Tanzania in its analysis on the point. Interestingly, the Electoral Commission limited its response to only Kenya and even added South Africa, which was not part of the MPP analysis. We will want to know which reasons the EC provides for countries like Nigeria, which is only now rolling out a national identification system for its populace. And yet Nigeria's election management body was able to find an effective method of getting a more credible register without a national ID for its recent 2015 elections only last May. To the Electoral Commission, this is one of the reasons we suggested the compilation of a new register. If the Electoral Commission thinks that it is logistically possible, they should immediately announce the steps and quickly roll it out. Failure to do this will only mean the obvious. Even though the current register's credibility has been questioned by no less a body than the Supreme Court, the EC is determined to keep it in order to give a particular political party an undue and unfair advantage. It is the responsibility of the Electoral Commission, but no one else, to adhere to the Supreme Court decision and purge the register of all such illegal entries before giving those who are eligible to vote another opportunity to now register legally. If this is not the basis for the creation of a new register, then the EC should tell us how many people registered with the NHIA cards. How does it intend to identify every single person on the estimated millions of Ghanaians who registered using the NHIS card in 2012? The EC should again tell us how it intends to inform every single one of them to come forward to take steps to regularize their voting status.
If today one group says do a new register and the EC listens, and tomorrow another group starts another agitation, then we must follow precedent and we must be compelled to listen. We should never take decisions based on that. You must always be able to stand by principle. So we listened to everybody. They brought their submissions in writing. We read it. And for some of them, you're like, clearly, you want to ask more questions. Anyone can put out anything, but we need to engage and understand even why are you suggesting this? Why do you think, for instance, that electronic voting is a solution to problems with the register? So we said, we would organize a forum. But because we also have our own views, we'd have other people come and listen. Both of the big parties actually had concerns and complaints. Informally, they brought it to us about some members of the panel. NPP had complaints about 2, NDC had complaints about 2, and I said, okay, that shows it's a balanced panel in my view. So we went ahead, we televised it, it was broadcast on radio, it was on the internet. We wanted everyone to listen and to also engage, and people could ask questions. And in that room, even the CSOs had the opportunities to present their views on the register. After that, the panel takes a decision. We read the report of the panel as the Electoral Commission, and we said, well, we would go with it in the interest of building inclusiveness, building consensus, building transparency. We thought that was the way to take a decision. And so, do we think that it will be a popular decision? Of course not. It won't be popular to everyone. Do we think it is a right decision? Yes. And because we think it is a right decision, we would implement it. Now, what are the challenges with the register that people have complained about? The allegations that there are minors on the register, allegations of multiple registrations, allegations of foreigners who are not qualified to be on the register or on the register. Those are the main allegations. There are others which border more on statistics and total number of our registered population compared to other countries. And we've explained that. Again, you have to understand the social context. We were told that in Kenya, for instance, their population is almost double Ghana's, and our the voter roll is about the same. I went to Kenya. I sat with the EMB.
You did?
Yes, I did. I said, how come you have a population of 40-something million and you have 20-something million on your 18 million on your register? And they said, oh, it's because when we're doing the biometric register, we had a 1-month period to do it. So we had actually targeted the registrable roll is about 23 million. We could only capture 18 million. So we have a shortfall. So if you read the strategic plan of the Kenyan Electoral Commission, there's a plan to capture even more people on their roll. And also, Kenya has a very robust system of national identification. You can't get married, you can't set up a business, you can't open a bank account if you don't present a national identity card. So, of course, the demand for the voter ID or to be on the roll is not as high as it is in Ghana, because Ghana, it's become the de facto means of identification. So we can't just pick figures from Kenya and compare. I went to the South African EC. I sat with them. I had the same discussion. Similar examples. They have a robust national identity system, so it's not a de facto ID. Voting is not compulsory, so you don't get as many people clamoring for the ID as you would in Ghana. So all the statistics have to be situated within context for you to understand it. Now you come to the issue of the minors on the register, allegedly. And then we have to ask ourselves, how did the minors get on the register? And why?
We have had that question time and again, but the issue is how to remove them, really.
Exactly. And so, how does the process of creating a new register ensure that we don't have minors on the register?
Now you are amending the law. You, the EC, are able to,
that is one of the,
as it were, protest.
But does it, even that? This is a country where we have one of the highest rates of child and early marriages globally. So if you have a 14-year-old who is married and sitting in her husband's house and comes to register, maybe because she wants to go and open a business or get a SIM card, and you say, no, you look 14, or you look 16, you're not 18, and she says, I'm 18, and the husband says she's 18, the parent says she's 18. What is the background documentation that we're going to request for her to establish it? It doesn't exist. So in taking these decisions, we must again look at the context we're working with. You can't work with an external context. The allegations that there are foreigners on the register. What is the definition of foreigners? If Samson is on the register of Togo, on the register of Mali, on the register of Germany, does it disqualify Samson under Ghanaian law from being on the register of Ghana? You are a lawyer. I haven't seen any law that takes away your eligibility to be on our register if you appear on another's register. The law just says that you must be a Ghanaian, you must be above 18 years and above, and you must be of sound mind. And I think we should actually be worrying about the category C as well.
Making certain statements, you have to be very careful, especially when it comes to numbers. Now, the NPP is saying that you submitted a response to the allegations or so ever to them, that you quoted a certain page that throughout the country, we've identified 150,000 multiple registration in the register. Now, you go on Newsfire and you state that in Ashanti region alone, you have identified 200,000 names of multiple registration. The first question is, what happened to the national figure? Was it isolated from the Ashanti region figure? What prompted the use of only Ashanti region as an example? This will prompt so many questions and allegations. That's why it beholds on the Electoral Commissioner to be very circumspect of some of the statements and the way the information from there is managed. But I repeat, we don't expect this issue to be a ball game between political parties. We have a constitutional mandated institution to manage elections. We expect the Electoral Commission to handle this issue and share its findings with the public, so as not to drag this issue deep into the election calendar that may affect the preparations and conduct of this year's election. It could be good because we are dealing with figures. We have a series to guide us. What happened at the Supreme Court? That Dr. Ferijan's pronouncement and what happened at the Supreme Court indicates that whoever occupies that to manage public communication, especially as far as figures are concerned. Leaving the argument in the court of the political parties to take it up instead of the elections management body taking full control of affairs is dangerous for our political discourse, especially for 2016. I wasn't expecting the issue on voter rule obligation to be MPP and DC or among political parties. I was expecting it as a petition to the elections management body who by the constitution is the sole agency who has the mandate to deal with issues on elections and maybe share its findings or its thoughts with other political parties. But as it stands now, a witness is what we are having today. That is become a ball game for the NPP and DC as usual as all political issues in the country.
Okay.
If you don't take time, it's going to drag on. And this is a very tensioned elections that we're going to have. Okay. So I believe, as I said, it's late now, but I was expecting the EC to have met with the NPP, share its findings with other political parties, that its findings from the allegations.
Well, thank you very much for staying, and the premises has been set, so you know why we are here. I go straight to David. I mean, the AC, I think, has laid down. Anyway, my wife just sent a message to say that you've declared your position. Why should we watch the program? Well, you have to watch. You know my position, but we don't know what Davis's response are going to be, so you have to watch it. So, David, I've been listening to, Madam EC. She has a point. I mean, she's her hands are tied. There's nothing she can do. We can identify minors. We can identify foreigners. So what's the call for a new register for? Should we back down and look at something else?
Thank you very much, Nana. Let me say good evening to our viewers, and then thanks for the opportunity to be here too. And then let me say good evening to your dear wife, who is my wife's role model. Nana, before I proceed, I must say that the recent public engagement and media encounter the EC chair has been doing is very good. They are practically good for the office she occupies. But I must also say that she has goofed on a couple of occasions, on a number of occasions, which also gives us a little bit of discomfort in our attempt to get the issues of the voters register properly positioned in its proper context. I think it is unacceptable for the Electoral Commission to sit on a live TV on your sister station when the EC had written in the Commission's own response, page 23, to the MPP and said, all over the nation, in all the voters register, in its entirety, we have identified 150,000 names under the category of multiple registration, which we hope to delete as part of the processes we decide, or we have decided to embark on, to either whittle down the numbers or give the voters register proper credibility. Then the EC chairperson is on a live TV and she says, in Ashanti region alone, we have identified 200,000 multiple registration. Then the next day you receive phone calls from Ashanti region. Then they say, what happens to the rest of the regions? Is the EC and the NDC both targeting the Ashanti region because it is perceived, or really practically it is the stronghold of the MPP? I think the EC boss goofed on TV and she must apologize.
Could that be in defense of, because in most of the statements you realize that we are clearly divided into two. If you want a new register, you are pro MPP, and if you don't, you are pro NDC, regardless of where you come from. So if the EC for any reason says that no, I don't think a new register would work, then it means you are in bed with the NDC. Could this have been to say that, listen, the fault is everywhere and not necessarily in the advantage of the NDC? Could this have been something to say that, look, within the MPP stronghold, look, there are 200,000 in there. Maybe there should be some in Volta region, there should be some up north, everywhere. Could this have been a reason?
Nana, you see, where I think the commission erred was the very onset of this whole argument. I agree with you to a large extent that there is a seeming feeling we're gradually getting sharply politically divided. I do not know. It could have its own advantages or disadvantages. But I have a practical difficulty where the Electoral Commission, who has the mandate and the responsibility of determining the credibility or otherwise of the electoral rule, falls back on the citizens and the political parties and tell the political parties, you come and make a case to me. Convince me why you think the register is bloated. In spite of the damning evidence the Electoral Commission received from MPP, the MPP told the Commission that this is just 10% of the work we have done. And we have had overwhelming evidence of 76,000 and beyond names, the border towns. Then the EC sits back, sets up a committee. Then the EC says, the other political parties who have not necessarily made cases, you two come and say something. So really, we in Let My Vote Count Alliance decided not to make any appearance at the Commission because we thought, are we going to do a head count? So that the real purpose and the substance in the case the MPP presented will be defeated, because you can rally political parties and other civil societies.
I disagree with the forum that if I made a case to you and then you call everybody to come, I don't agree with that. However, the question is that, if I was on the voters register in Togo and I'm on the voters register in Ghana, so what?
You know what? I, in my opinion, from the very onset, thought the EC could have made this thing very simple for us. We have 14 point something million. NPP, you are claiming there are a few categories like minors have registered, ghost names exist. Okay, let us do exhibition at the various polling stations where the individuals did go to register. You go to your police station. Police stations are supposed to have not more than 700 or not more than 1,000 persons. So go back to the registration center where you registered in the previous election. If you are able to show up in person, what it means is that we can identify either you are a minor or you are a ghost. Ghost, as said by Professor Jega, never had the opportunity to go back to the polling station to confirm their identity. So as long as you would appear or resurface at the polling station to confirm your identity, and then we take your agent political party A will be there, your agent political party B will be there. How much would it have cost us as a nation if the EC hadn't set up a committee for us to go eat and drink at Alisa? Then the EC will set up a committee, or the EC will put the whole commission together and say, we're setting some 2 weeks aside. Let us do a proper exhibition or confirmation. Come to the polling station where you registered. We are giving you 2 weeks.
But I think the demand was that you wanted to scrap this one and come up with a new one.
And my point is that the EC could have avoided this whole convoluted argument and processes where political parties who necessarily did not have opinions were invited to come and make a case.
But what you are asking for, it's not time yet. It would happen. They always open the register before an election.
They do. But that is either verification or the process of you coming to confirm whether your name is in the register. But really, that is different from where political parties have reps over there seated purposely to confirm those who have come to confirm. So that if you don't show up, it is believed you are either dead, a ghost, then your name must not be in the roll. So really, from the very onset, the EC, I think, got it wrong. In other jurisdictions, the Nigerian example is a classical case and then a masterpiece of a best practice. I think in the last few months, we have quoted consistently. Professor Jega did not set up a panel for the political parties, and including those who have never expressed opinion about the electoral rules, integrity, or otherwise. Compulsorily, MPP has made a case. So you to come and say something. Either you agree with MPP or you don't agree. Then at the end of the day, the EC became an overall referee. But what hurts us most is that along the process, the Electoral Commission, who is expected to be the referee and the mediator, made so much damning an opinion, and it was so clear and obvious that the Commission's neutrality itself was questionable.
Let me go on the phone and... what was it, neutrality, or was it that they were faced with laws that they couldn't do anything? Dr. Bosman Asare. Hello, do I have Dr. Bosman?
Hello, I'm on the line.
Yeah, Dr. Asare, good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Nana.
We are going with our current register. The MPP has released a statement saying that they're not very happy with the EC's position, but I mean, in real fact, if we can identify, who is 18 in the country, what can the EC do?
I think, Nana, we, as a country, we really have a major problem when it comes to trying to advance the cause of democratic governance. I think in the first instance, one of the challenges we are having is that in our system, we lack what I prefer to call elite consensus. Like Ghanaians are finding it difficult to agree on what is really the right thing to do. We know the EC has openly stated that they are not really going to create any opportunity for a new register. But the question is the EC should be able to ensure that all the political parties are on the same page regarding what kind of register we are going to use in the next election. So if the EC, in the thinking of the EC, they strongly believe that auditing the register is the right thing to do, then they should be able to come up with what are the scientific ways that are going to be used to audit the register. And the various parties must be on board. Because I think as a country, it's our responsibility to ensure that the rules governing elections are very fair, and it will really lead to a situation whereby whoever emerges victorious might have gone through the process regularly, and that person should be the one the Ghanaian people have voted for.
Dr. Asare, are we not putting the EC in a very unfair position as to the EC has no, records of births and deaths. EC has no records of who's 18, who's dead, who's not, who's Ghanaian and not. And yet still we demand from the EC a credible register which only Ghanaians 18 and above should be on. How does the EC know who's 18?
So certainly, I think the demands on the EC very enormous demands. But the question is, in a democracy, people should be able to make those demands in on the political system, which I think the MPP and Let My Vote Count Alliance are trying to do. But I think they should also be very moderate, reasonable in their demands. But the question is, what can we do as a country so that we can have a system a register that is so credible, that is so acceptable. So this we even demand that the political parties themselves, what can they do to assist the Electoral Commission if they are ready to provide the names of even some of the people they know whose names are in the register, and they can testify that these are people who are no longer alive. What can be done to clean it is a good thing. But we know in our part of the world, unfortunately, Nana, people are thinking about what can they do to gain advantage over other individuals. And when you are running a system whereby all people are thinking of cheating the system, then you are obviously going to have a very big problem. We know in certain jurisdictions, opposition elements will even be organizing the election, and the system is credible. But in Ghana, we've reached a point where trust is a missing ingredient in our political system. So all of us are thinking about cheating the system, exploiting the system. Until some of these attitudes are changed, I think we are really going to be having these problems in every election.
Doctor, thank you very much for that comment. Thank you for contributing to the show. David, with your energy, won't you get a credible ID? Has it been investigated? What's the software that can get a proper ID from probably birth, 2 weeks from birth or something, some information to say that, listen, if you have a voter's ID card and you're stopped by the police, it means you'll be treated as an adult and you go to a home rather than a collaboration, so that people will say, hold on, they mean do 18, why don't we back along that tree?
I agree to a large extent. I have, on a countless number of occasions, asked myself this particular question. How about if we change the register any moment from now in the future of 2017 and beyond? Another political party also comes out with a case that we also think we didn't fare well. We didn't fare so much well because the last election, the register was also bloated. Or we can't do well in the incoming election, 2020, because there are issues with the register. So let's change it. Then it becomes cyclical. We keep moving back and forth. I agree to a large extent. There is a need for us to look critically at consolidating our national ID system. But the point again is that let's look at this retrospectively. The Electoral Commission has had 6 months. I believe we are in the 7th month. I was on Joy FM a few months ago with Christian Owusu-Parry. The first time that my Vote Count Alliance held a press conference, we spoke about the credibility of the voters register, and the EC spokesperson was very emphatic. There is nothing wrong with the register. We have a duplication system in place, and the system automatically purges itself. Those were the words of the commission. Then the NDC political party also said there is nothing wrong with the register. We moved on and on and on, and the two bodies, the EC, the independence of the EC, which we all respect, I don't know where it vanished to, but at the point, there were a few hitches that we had a lot of reasons to believe. Is the EC really working as an independent entity? The EC came out and said, well, we think we have identified a few flaws. As we speak now, the response the EC sent to the MPP has it that 600,000 ghost names must be cleaned off the register. The committee recommended that the register is deeply bloated. And they further recommended that the measures to take to clean the register include the multiple registration, that category. We're looking at about 150,000 names, ghost names, about 600,000 names, and then minors and all that. So really, to a large extent, all the parties involved believe there are issues with the register. So my point is, from the very onset, the EC never bought into the idea that there were issues with credibility with the register, or there were issues of credibility with the register. And the EC had gradually dragged its feet as a commission for the last 6 months. And we are at this crucial point, and everybody is saying, well, we have agreed there are issues, but let's manage and massage them and go into the elections. The 6 months the EC spent in engaging the public in that exercise could have been used to create or formulate a more lasting solution like what you're proposing.
Let me go on the phone and speak to Dr. Amwakoba. Doctor, hello. Dr. Amwakoba.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us on the show. Hello, I wonder if Doctor can hear me.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Doc, I want to hear your comment with regards to, I mean, we are going with the current register. My question to everybody is that maybe we all backed at the wrong tree. Instead of putting pressure on the nation to have a proper ID, we are looking for a proper voters register, which is kind of impossible if we don't have a way of identifying people. I don't know what your position is.
Well, you're right. You're right about that. You're right about that. But the EC doesn't have the authority to demand identification. The Constitution does not give her those powers. It gives her powers to supervise elections. And so that is what she can do. My difficulty with her position is this. You see, what has brought about all of this argument is not minors voting. It is not. Multiple registration. It is foreigners on the register. That is the core problem. Because minors voting, multiple registration, these are all routine maintenance for any electoral commission. And so it is the sort of thing you do regularly to clean the register. But how are you going to ascertain that there are not foreigners on the register when somebody has shown you, from my perspective, evidence, credible evidence, that there are? How are you going to do that? That she has not talked about. If she's talked about that, I think everybody will be calm. As long as she keeps the skirting around the issue and talking about other things instead of the thing that is really creating the problems, then the problems will not go away.
Doctor, but I think her challenge was that, now, do we have 76,000 passports to say that these people are only Togolese and they are not Togolese and Ghanaians? And indeed, if they are, you know, Dr. Makoba, you lived in America before. If once upon a time your name is on the American voters register, are you barred from voting in Ghana?
No, but you see, that is exactly the problem. Just because somebody has a Ghanaian heritage through parenthood, for example, mother, father, or both, does not mean that that person is automatically able to vote. That is what we don't understand. It just means that you qualify to apply for citizenship in order to vote. But only citizens can vote. If you are born in Togo, you cannot be an automatic citizen of Ghana too. That is what we don't understand.
Doctor, but here we are with 76,000 names. For the EC to take each one out, they all have to come and prove to the EC that, no, you can't take me out. I am entitled to be on. I mean, are we dragging all these...
Exactly. But see, that is exactly the problem. If you say you are going to clean it, that is what you are going to have to do. But if you say, let's do a new one, it means everybody is informed 1 month in advance. We are going to have a new register. Whether you live in Togo or not does not matter. You will hear it. And if you cross the border to come to register, it means you have the papers to prove you can vote in Ghana. That's it.
Doctor...
And this is why it makes more sense to do a new one than to say we're going to clean it. How are you going to do it? Exactly what you are saying is the problem.
Doctor, if we do a new register and a Togolese came to, let's say, hold to register, he speaks the Ewe language, he looks like an Ewe man, but he hasn't got any ID because he works on the cocoa farm. Do we stop him or do we include him?
Well, yes, because if you can't prove you are Ghanaian, you can't vote. It's very simple, but you don't necessarily have to have an ID. For example, in a town or small village, everybody knows each other. So if you're from there, they can ascertain that, yes, this person is from here. That's the uncle, that's the father, that's the mother, whatever, and that's the end of it. But you cannot say that just because somebody just declares that he's a Ghanaian himself, that he can just get out and vote. No, it doesn't work. No country does that.
Thank you very much for that contribution, Dr. Amoako. David, that's a challenge, isn't it? Because at the moment, all we need to say that David, you're Ghanaian is two people.
Yeah.
And these two people would probably need an ID, which now is not even valid. So these two people would just say, yes, I know Nanasakwa say, yeah, David, you're Ghanaian, we are Ghanaian. And these two people can guarantee for as many people, I mean, 12 hours, they can stand there for 12 hours, just say, yep, he's part of us, he's part of us, he's part of us. And this is what Ghana is saying, that for somebody to say I'm Ghanaian, all you need is just two people who look grown up to say that, yes, I know him, he's Ghanaian. I mean, that is a big challenge.
I can understand. there are a few challenges with that particular constitutional provision or constitutional instrument. Because I am told there were a few abuses where people are in the queue, they confirm for one person to register. Immediately the person finishes the registration, he comes together to join another person who has just registered, then they confirm another, and then again, the cycle went on and on and on. But again, another statement made by the EC chairperson, she says if we listen to the NPP, we're going to end up having an elitist register. Really, what this means is that if you are a village cocoa farmer like my grandmother who lives in Nkoko or something close to that, who necessarily does not have a Ghanaian passport, then you may not be able to register. You are cut out. That is not what the NPP seek to establish. What the NPP is saying is that the constitutional instrument with which elections are managed and conducted in this country can be amended, just as the EC, Dr. Kwadwo Afere-Gyan, went to amend a CI that gave the platform for National Health Insurance Card to be used as a means of acquiring a voter's ID card. Then just after that, the National Health Insurance Scheme also embarked on a nationwide exercise of doing mass registration at a whittled down rate so that the poor and then vulnerable in certain regions could have access to that practice. And you know the interesting thing? He went to Parliament and said, let Parliament give the constitutional backing for National Health Insurance Card to be used as a means of registering to get a voter's ID card. Right after the CI went through in Parliament, the National Health Insurance Authority embarked on the mass registration exercise. The most poverty endemic areas in our country, I'm sure we can talk about Upper East, Upper West, and possibly Central region. You know what happened? The mass registration of National Health Insurance went into Volta region and Bronga-Hafu. Over 250,000 people were registered under the scheme. Immediately, the EC boss went to Parliament and had the law passed. Then quickly, those with the National Health Insurance Card quickly got onto the electoral roll. So really, we didn't get here by accident to get the voters register bloated. There was a premeditated and calculated ungodly attempt to get us to this point, purposely meant to favor one particular political party. So I believe the NPP as a party, we have a genuine case. But for the EC to subject the genuine and legitimate case the NPP presented and make it more of a political football for other political parties who necessarily never had a case with the credibility of the electoral rule to compulsorily also have a say, so that at Alisa, it was not about the substance of what Chairman McMahon presented. 76,000 names. EC, tell me whether we are wrong or not. The EC come back to say we have not had access to Togolese voters register. The substance of what Chairman McMahon presented at the Lisa Hotel at the encounter was never the substance of discussion, but rather, let us do a head count. How many of you here support voters register? Then one raises the hand, okay, majority must have the day. We can't do a new register. Then I think there is a problem, because this is where we are. If indeed former EC boss Dr. Kwadwo Afere-Gyan could go to Parliament to amend the CI and then he came back, then if indeed the National Health Insurance Card has been outlawed by a Supreme Court, then if we have to go into future elections and the nation come together and then we deem it fit that we need to get a new voters register, then the EC must go back to Parliament for the existing voters ID card to be outlawed again. So you can't use the existing card you have to go procure another new card. Then what we're talking about is that you may have to get a birth certificate or the passport or more than one person or two persons to confirm your nationality as a Ghanaian. At the end of the day, we do not intend disenfranchising any Ghanaian, but it would be better for us to have a minimal number of voters on our electoral roll so that the entire integrity of the electoral register will be high, rather than having an extremely bloated register. Then we go to the polls and you lose and you have hazy idea about the document with which the elections were conducted. It will not be good for us.
Two questions. The bloating, the EC said, was due to the fact that we use voters ID as a primary ID, therefore everybody wants one. But going forward, how are we going to work with what we have?
I agree with you. Let me quote something the MPP said today. I have had the opportunity to respond on a few occasions to what the MPP said. People have started speculating the MPP as a party has thrown up its hands in the air, giving up on the demand for a new voters register. Let me quote part of what the MPP read. The MPP is by this response calling for an immediate stop to all processes involved in the so-called internal cleaning of the register until all parties can satisfy themselves of the modalities and means by which the so-called internal cleaning is being done. The MPP hereby serves notice that it remains totally dissatisfied with the response from the Electoral Commission and reiterates its conviction that only a new credible voters register will guarantee us free, fair, and transparent elections. The fight is on. The MPP has not given up on the fight for a new voters register. However, it is not a do and die affair. If indeed NDC, who from the very onset thought there was nothing wrong with the register, have seen wisdom in the need for us to look critically at the credibility of the register and have stepped backwards, and then the new position is, we think there are issues with the register. Let's clean it. The EC from the onset equally said, no, there is nothing wrong with the register. They have equally seen wisdom in the need to look at the credibility of the register again. They are saying, we think the NDC's position must be upheld. Now, how do we implement what the NDC are saying? And then how do we respond to the MPP's position of working on the integrity of the register?
I'm going to take a break, and then when we come back, we'll find out how. Thank you very much. Let me catch up with some of the messages that you have sent. This one says, Nana, I challenge David to read that portion in page 23, which says the 150,000 names represented a figure for the whole country. The report says post-2012, that's the figure the EC got, but ahead of the 2016 elections. The deduplication it continues to do points to some 200,000 multiple registrations in the Asante region alone. The MPP has lost the voter register debate and are therefore just clutching onto straws. From Barima, Kubanji, and Jenejere. This one says, Nana, I think the EC is no more neutral. The reason is that it brought its timetable for 2016 election when the committee had not submitted its report on the register. So it tells that the EC, the EC knew the report before it came. Does this make the EC neutral? EC should not jeopardize the peace of this country. Jomo from Siakwa. NPP has failed to, I think it's failed. It failed to supervise both underage and foreigners during the time they were registering. Why now? Oh, NPP failed to supervise both underage and foreigners during the time. So why now? They should give us a break. Daniel Bukari Garu in Tampani. And then I disagree with the gentleman's suggestion that the EC should have exhibited the voters register to eliminate ghost names, minors and foreigners, because I would not agree to leave school and go home just to take part in an exhibition exercise, and my name cannot be deleted just because I failed to go for an exhibition. Thank you. And this is Abandao Thomas. Thank you very much. So these are some of the questions there, but what are we going to do now, David?
There is a way forward. The way forward is that, like I was just about concluding, the NDC started from a point. They have listened to the points made by the various political parties and, of course, civil society and all pressure groups. The EC also had an entrenched position. We wouldn't do a new register. There's nothing wrong with the register. They changed their stance. This is what the NPP is saying. I remember from the onset, the NPP thought cleaning the register is going to be another convoluted exercise or a difficult exercise. The NPP press conference today brought to light a few things said by the committee of 5 that sat on the matter. 1, the issue of the National Health Insurance Card, which have been outlawed by a Supreme Court. The point again is, we have said a couple of times, there is no point in we pushing the law for the law to stretch its hands backwards to have a retrospective effect. But in any case, The Electoral Commission as an entity has a record and a data system well managed, and they should be able to come out to tell us those who filled forms and indicated the document with which they were procuring or acquiring the voters register. The EC should be able to tell us the number of Ghanaians who use National Health Insurance card to acquire the voters ID card. After we get to know that, then it will be only fair and proper we give those individuals the opportunity for them to be properly registered. The fact that the law cannot stretch its hands backwards to take a retrospective effect does not mean we should allow the evil to persist and not cure it, if indeed there is a remedy.
All those people will just take they will be removed, and then you and I will go and stand there and say, yeah, Oyeganani, 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 till thy kingdom come, until they all back on there.
Now the point is, a few figures have come out. People have speculated. We have about 4 million of such names in the register. How do we give these Ghanaians or alleged Ghanaians the opportunity to get their names legitimately on our electoral roll? Secondly, the EC must at any moment from now embark on continuous registration exercise in the election year. The EC again will either engage the services of a multinational consultancy agency or an auditing firm to clean the register. The political parties are going to sit side by side to watch the register cleaned. How many will be cleaned from Ashanti region? As we speak now, the EC boss is telling us 200,000. Meanwhile, overall national multiple names, we are told, is even 150,000. Then how many will be cleaned from another perceived stronghold of a political party? It's going to be a convoluted exercise. The MPP still believe a new register, an entirely fresh register, is the simplest approach. And now, you know one interesting thing. We have had the opportunity to listen to NDC. They've made fine cases why they think the register must be cleaned. The MPP has equally presented brilliant cases why we think the register must be renewed. The EC, as the management body, must tell us what they think. We haven't heard from the EC. Let the commission tell us. It is their technical duty. They have the mandate. I am struggling to understand why the EC is subordinating the responsibility of identifying whether or not the document has credibility. That duty is not mine to prove to you. I don't understand it why the Electoral Commission cedes that responsibility of identifying a supposed flaw in the electoral roll to the political parties. You come and make a case to me and let me be convinced. I disagree with the commission entirely. Madam Electoral Commission Chairperson, it is not the duty of the political parties to make a point or a case to you. Moving on in future, will we be saddled with the responsibility of getting NDC also to come and convince the EC? Then the EC will be convinced? It's a complex matter. So, Madam Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, with the greatest of respect, your public engagement are good, but please sit back and look critically at the issues of credibility of the voters register. It is not the responsibility of the political parties to point them out to you. The MPP makes another interesting case. However, we do agree that the opinion of the EC panel for a validation exercise will be an acceptable and second best approach to resolving the problem of ineligible voters on Ghana's voters register. That is validation. The political parties sit side by side. 600,000 ghost names. We clear them off the register. We are left with a little below 4 million. We do deduplication or we clean the multiple names. Then you come and show me you are not dead. Your name is indeed here and this is you in person. Then we validate you.
David, thank you very much. For God and country, Ghana must stand. Tomorrow we're back to do this all over again. Thank you very much for watching.